Okay, on this part of my video, I'm gonna talk about what's happening in Ukraine. There's a war in Ukraine. People had called it Putin War. Even some Russian call it Putin War because many Russians say they don't want this war, so they call it Putin War because this war is what Putin wants. The Russians don't want the war, don't want to invade Ukraine, but the people are being forced to have this war and call it Putin War. And I'm not surprised with the name Putin War. The Ukrainian also say it's a Putin War. The NATO also says it's Putin War. Reason is politics in Russia. The people of the West had been saying Putin take the opportunity in the crisis. So what does it mean? Putin, the man who take the opportunity in the crisis. So you have to look back in the history of how Putin became the president of Russia. Was during the crisis when they invade Chechnya. Chechnya at one time wanted to be independent, and they assigned a president of Chechnya. So they put arms to fight the Russian. I think during the initial war, they were winning the war, and Boris Yeltsin was the president-elect of Russia. Get the Russian army to retreat, but then he assigned Putin after that. So meaning I don't know what the discussion between Boris Yeltsin and Putin. Maybe Boris Yeltsin saying that if you won this war, then likely you'll be the president. So at one time Putin was leading control the army of Russia to invade Chechnya for the second time. So when Chechnya was invaded for the second time, it was a brutal war, and Russia was able to defeat the Chechnya soldiers or army. It's a small state, not a big population, so So Russia was invading a small country, a small army, and of course that Chechnya don't have the weapon, don't have the jet plane, and it is expected that Russia will overwhelm the Chechen fighters. So eventually, I think they had used also gas. I was watching TV at the time. I was following the war from the beginning, so I know about the war. I still remember Chechnya fighter were fighting with RPG and also managed to destroy many Russian tanks. And Russia was able to kill the president. When the president make a call, then they identify the location. Then the Russian jet plane shoot a missile while the president was in the car. So his car was bombed, and the president of Chechnya was killed. But they continue fighting, but eventually they were overwhelmed by the bigger power. You mean gun, because Russian have gun, planes, and I've seen Chechnya try to shoot the plane with only machine gun. There's no missile, and they have only RPG to fight the Russian tank. Unlike the Ukrainian now, they were fighting with missile, handheld missile, the javelin. What else? The Enlaw from Britain, Stinger missile, and also Bayraktar TB2 drone from Turkey. So now fighting with Ukrainian is more balanced in weaponry. Of course, Russia initially was seen to be stronger, and Ukraine people were outgunned, and Russian army was able initially to get through and occupied some of the Ukrainian land. So like they were almost like only about say 10 kilometers from the capital, and Ukrainian fighters were putting a steep resistance, and I follow the video every day, seeing this was well documented, because now people can take video from their mobile telephone. So a lot of video I've seen, documentary, is become more interesting now to see the war going on in Ukraine, because you have that video taken by anyone who have the telephone. So it's become very interesting, and I follow the video, and that's the reason why I like to share with you of what I know, what is going on in Ukraine. So lately, the Ukrainian they also get help from Ukrainian regular army, also get help from the citizen who had no military experience, but they were wanting to fight the Russian. Not only the Ukrainian, but also foreigners, numbering 20,000 foreigners went to Ukraine to help the Ukrainian people to fight the Russian. Yes, they admit it's dangerous. The reason why they fight the Russian, because they don't like the Russian way of fighting. They hate the Russian way of fighting, of killing, bombing hospital, killing babies and the mother of the babies and the woman and the children. So they hate that, and they say they couldn't stand to hear that. Also make them angry, and that's the reason why they sacrifice their life, take the risk to fight the Russian. So it's normal human being when it's normal human being to fight for what they believe. That is to fight and avenge the people, the innocent people that were bombed by the Russian. So it's normal. Not surprised even the Japanese were helping the American people, the British people, and Chechen people. I was told the Chechen people, being the Muslim, and their regular army were fighting for Russia, but there are Chechen people who also fight with the Ukrainian army, so they're helping. So they say the Muslim fighting on both sides, the helping the Ukrainian and also fight for Russia. So of course in our belief, people fighting for Russia will be disadvantaged. I don't recommend any Muslim to fight for Russia because they're doing destruction. So most likely the people who support Russia, fight for Russia, also supporting doing the destruction, and meaning that in the Quran it's also mentioned that there are people who like to do destruction, and what they do is to break the agreement with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when they break the agreement with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they become losers. So meaning that the losers are the Chechen, who is helping the Russian, and the winners are the people or the Chechen who help the Ukrainian, because they are against the people who, or they are protecting the people who've been subject to destruction by the Russian bomb. So they are the winners in the next world. Also, the Russians are getting help from the Syrian people. I know the Muslim of the Russian people. I know what kind of Muslim likely to help Russia. So they are the Muslim that are likely to help Russia are the Shia. The Shia and the Muslim who likely to help the Ukrainian are the Sunni Muslim. So that is, I'm sure, because the Sunni Muslim at one time was bombed by Russia, and they made the refugees that escaped from the bombing. So now I won't be surprised they take the opportunity this time to fight and take revenge on the Russian soldiers. So that's what's happening in Ukraine now. There are Muslims fighting, and Zelensky is also trying to get more Muslims to fight, to help them. But I wonder why they like the Muslim to help them. Maybe they can get help from the Taliban, recruit some of the Taliban to help them. Maybe some of them will want to help. Maybe subjected to them flying. So I believe some Taliban will want also to help, because Russia had been invading them before. So maybe this Muslim will raise the spirit of the Ukrainian fighters. So Muslims were known also good fighters in the Second World War. Muslim fighters were good fighters, and German were also kind of scared of the Muslim fighters. So maybe that is the reason why Zelensky was also hoping to get the half of the Muslim fighters fighting the Russian. So what is happening now, this war is not a bad thing, but look like, it's my opinion, look like war of Afghanistan is repeated in Ukraine, where the Ukrainian fight. Most of them don't use tanks like that, but they're using infantry, where the soldiers carry handheld missile, Stingers, Javelin missiles, and lower missile from Britain, and also from German, called Panzer III. which I believe is also effective in destroying, because German is giving this in big numbers. So the more of this weapon that Ukrainians have, the more gun power they have, because currently they are still outgunned, but with this handheld gun it shows result that many of the tanks, even tank columns, was destroyed. And in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, they managed to push Russian attack by 70 kilometers from Kiev. So the president of Zelensky is safe. I think they also, Ukrainian one also make sure that their president, their charming president, Zelensky is safe. Zelensky is instrumental to raise the spirit of the Ukrainian to fight the Russian, because he stay in Ukraine. He didn't migrate to other country to save his life. He say he want to stay, and he stay and raise the spirit of the Ukrainian to fight the Russian. So he is now looked by the world as a hero in Ukraine struggle. He's a charming man. He was a comedian before, then jump into politics and win election and become the leader. He also having good relation with Turkey and many other countries, because look to me, he's a good man. He's a good man and really working towards helping Ukraine develop economy and be fair in politics, because he was elected. His party won the election and he become the president. So it's based on the democratic way of electing a president. So it's a legal way. So he's popular. So unlike Putin, who become president not by election, but by Boris Yeltsin interest to protect himself, because he was Boris to protect himself from the law, because Boris Yeltsin was known to be a corrupted leader. So Putin was protecting him. That's how Putin become a president. It's like not according to the rule of democracy. Even now, you see, Putin doesn't like opposition party, doesn't like another powerful man to come to grab power and all, and was known to poison his rival, kill his rival and poison, and one person, Alexander, was poisoned while he was in the plane and then the doctor in Russia saved him, not in Russia, but by sending him to German, and there he got his treatment, and he recovered from the poison attack. So now he's healthy, and I don't know whether he still is in Russia or he's somewhere else. If he's in Russia, then I believe that he's a brave man to be in Russia. Most likely he will be put to jail again. So I don't really know what is happening to him. But there are also other opposition wanting to challenge Putin to be the president. But Putin has cronies, the oligarch, and these oligarchs are Putin friends, and they are rich people. So Putin is also known to be rich, the richest person in the world. Is said in the media that he's the richest person in the world, and it has been shown that he had a palace, a big palace on the hill. On the door, they put icon of eagle with two heads, and they say the eagle is made of pure gold, so it must be expensive luxury palace that is built by Putin. And they say he didn't use his money but using state money to build a palace for him. So he looked like he want to become like the king of Russia or the Tsar with that palace. So what happened now when the war in Russia is not going his way? He may be defeated in Ukraine. Then when he's defeated, he's no longer be seen as a man invincible or powerful. And then that will bring, because the war in Ukraine is not popular, but the people of Russia cannot say against the war. But so many people who are saying they don't like the war, they're against the war. Recently, 15,000 of them were caught by the police and put to jail, and the jail punishment is 15 years in jail. So just imagine 15 years in jail for saying that they are against the war in Ukraine. So what happened is the Russians are scared living in Russia. They say it's not safe for them to live in Russia, because they don't like to be sent to jail for 15 years for opposing the war in Ukraine. So they migrate as a refugee, but not as a refugee like Ukraine, but they just escape. They escape to other countries. Some live in Turkey. I've seen row of cars going to neighboring country, north of Ukraine, Louisiana, I think, believe, or Louisiana, can't remember the name of the country. They just seen car queuing, Russian car queuing to get into the country. Mostly the journalists, they escape from Russia because they have a proof. When they write something opposing the war, they become the target of Putin police to arrest. So there are also the politician who say something opposing the war under house arrest. So when they're under house arrest, they act too late to escape. Or maybe they think Putin will not arrest them. But anyone saying opposing the war will be under house arrest. So some of the rich people also not feeling secure living in Russia if they have a record of opposing the war. So maybe some already take action to live in other country. Of course, when they are rich, no problem of living in other country, but make sure they change their money in other currency before the sanction was taking place. So Russia was under sanction. Even the Coca-Cola not sold in Russia anymore. And I've seen a video, Russian lady, he missed the Coca-Cola. Some even say they miss the KFC chicken. So no more KFC chicken. What else? They cannot use the card issue like that by US, like Visa, things like that. MasterCard, they cannot use. And a lot of money owned by oligarch. Oligarch is the rich people of Russia who are friends to Putin. They own the company because Putin had decided who owned the company. So some oil company all are owned by his cronies, and that is the reason why Putin is the richest man in this world, because he had share in all the profitable companies in Russia. So what's happening in Russia is the fake news. So the fake news that the people of Russia receive is that everything in Ukraine is doing well. Russian is doing well. They conquer the land, things like that. So many Russian people also believe, yes, the Russian army is invincible. Wherever they go, they always win. But in reality, no, they easily win in Syria. Not many of them were killed in Syria, but in Ukraine is a different story. In fact, the Ukrainian government say they had killed like 14,000 of Russian soldiers killed in Ukraine, whilst the Ukrainian fighter or army fatality is only 1,300 killed, while the Russian soldiers, they managed to kill like 14,000. And the war analysis says that too many of the Russian soldiers were killed in a fast rate with the time. When we consider the time, American soldiers killed in Afghanistan was a small number, though they were there in Afghanistan fighting for 20 years. Still less than 14,000. I think it's only 3,000 or 4,000. But the Russian soldiers killed in Ukraine, 14,000 is a big number, because the war duration is only about 2 months, or not more than 2 months. So every day they were killed in big number, like 500 killed, things like that. And this destruction on the number of tanks that the Ukrainian army and fighters destroy, numbering about